As the orange leaves trickle down from the trees, we celebrate Thanksgiving, a time for good food with family and friends. Speaking of this, here are my top 5 Thanksgiving foods. Can't celebrate Thanksgiving if all those you love aren't there. During the months of November, December, and June, the most people go missing mysteriously, barely with any trace to be found. One of the main places that people disappear are American national parks. This disturbing trend of disappearances happens all across the country, from the Great Smoky Mountains, to Yellowstone, to the Grand Canyon National Park. It isn't exactly clear how many go missing every year, due to there not being a public list for each of these parks, but it is estimated over 150 people vanish into thin air in American national parks, with most of these disappearances remaining unsolved this very day. Tonight, join me as we look at 3 disappearances in American national parks. Strangely enough, there is not a lot of evidence on who Eric Lewis was before the day he disappeared. All we really know is that Eric Lewis was a 57-year-old hiker with years of experience under his belt. In fact, he had summited Rainier prior 10 times before his disappearance. Anyways, on July 1st of 2010, Eric Lewis and 2 friends began their ascent on the trail that isn't exactly safely recommended for summer climbs by the name of the Gibraltar Ledges route. Now, this route would be perfectly fine if he had gone 6 months later during the winter months. However, he decided to ascend during the time of year where the trail is significantly less stable. It should also be noted that the conditions, even for summer, were very poor on the trail that day, with you only being able to see about 5 to 10 feet in front of you at any given time, and with wind speeds reaching up to 60 miles an hour. Once the group reached 13,900 feet, they noticed that something was terribly wrong. The end of the rope, which was once holding Eric, had completely gone slack. They had just seen Eric mere moments earlier, and it now appeared that he had just vanished. In addition, his carabiner was unclipped from the rope, suggesting that he let himself go. His friends then began a frantic search for him, looking for any possible place in the immediate area that he would have slidden off to. And what they found was truly bizarre. Eric's footprints seemed to stop at around 13,800 feet, with no snow disturbed ahead of them, with the footprints only leading forward, with no evidence that he went off in a different direction. My only theory on the situation is that he fell in the snow due to it being less firm in the summer. However, that would contradict the end of the footprints, as nothing was seen beyond that point. It simply seems like he popped out of existence at the end of his footprints. Eric Lewis remains a missing person.
Eric's case really gives me the creeps. How do footprints just sound like that? It's almost as if something unnatural happened. For someone so experienced, it's hard to believe he would have just slipped or made a mistake. It feels like there's more to the story.
Before his disappearance in 2016, Floyd Roberts was described as a highly intelligent man who loved the great outdoors and challenging hikes. He had been working at Middleton High School as a business, tech, and web design teacher since August of 2014. All in all, he seemed to be a very wise and kind man. Unfortunately, on Saturday, June 17th of 2016, things would take a turn for the worse. At the beginning of that day, everything seemed to be in order. He and a group of fellow hikers made their way into the Grand Canyon National Park, with all accounts saying that Floyd was very well prepared for the trek ahead of him. This trail wasn't a new hike for him either, as he had hiked this trail previously. The problem began once his group reached a large hill, where Floyd insisted on taking an alternate route around, just before coming up to the trailhead. His group split off there, and this is the last time Floyd Roberts was seen alive. It should be noted that the area was under a heavy heat advisory at the time, with temperatures reaching up to a scorching 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which could have contributed to the crowded judgment which he had when he reached that hill. However, as it stands, Floyd E. Roberts III remains a missing person.
I think Floyd's disappearance is especially tragic because he seemed so prepared and experienced. It makes me wonder if the extreme heat and isolation caused him to make a mistake, or if something entirely unexpected happened out there. It's heartbreaking to think of him lost alone in such an unforgiving place.
Prior to his 2011 disappearance, 30-year-old George Penko was a social butterfly of sorts. Anything that he could do with friends or family, he did, and loved every second doing it. Similarly, on the fateful morning of June 17, 2011, he joined a group of 20 church friends to hike up the Yosemite Falls Trail. For those unaware, the Yosemite Falls Trail is a 7.2-mile trail that reaches up to an elevation of 2,700 feet, or 823 meters, which allows hikers to get a good view of the park's beautiful landscape. Before we get to the moment of his disappearance, I believe it is important to note that George Penka was a rather inexperienced hiker. Anyways, the group summited the trail's highest point at around 2:40 p.m. and decided that everybody would meet back up at the bottom of the trail once more. This was the last time that anyone in the group saw George Penka. At the time, they assumed that George had simply already walked down the trail. It wouldn't be until about 9 p.m. that everyone noticed that George wasn't with the group. This is where the initial search began. Even into the next day, with 105 searchers, 6 dog teams, and a helicopter, George Penka still could not be located, and is still missing to this day. My only theory is that he perhaps fell somewhere. Even then, this is not too likely, since the area all around the trail was thoroughly searched, and not even a bit of clothing was found. You would think that if he fell, he would at least catch his clothing on some rock on the way down, or something of that nature. To this day, the location of George Penka remains an enigma.
George's disappearance hits hard because he seemed like such a fun, loving, social guy who just wanted to enjoy a hike with friends. It's frustrating to think how thoroughly they searched, yet they found absolutely nothing. It's as if he simply disappeared into thin air, and that's the part that sticks with me the most.
As we've learned today, anyone can disappear at any time. What could otherwise seem as a small hike or a drive down a country road could be your last. So cherish every moment you get with friends and family this Thanksgiving. As always, keep your head on a swivel and follow that gut feeling in your stomach. Thank you all, and good night.